Hey, what's up, everybody? And thank you for listening to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. My name is Chris Martinez, CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people and the processes so that they can take on more projects and scale profitably. And if you're looking for a new book and you are trying to find a way to also build your remote team, then I highly recommend that you go to Amazon and you pick up a copy of my new book, Never Wear Pants Again, where I share our secrets of how we have built a remote team that has delighted our customers. And we've built an amazing company culture. So you don't have to figure this thing out on your own. Go to Amazon, pick up my new book, Never Wear Pants Again. So, with that being said, I am very, very excited to announce for the second time we've got a repeat guest, Mr. Brent Weaver, CEO at UGURUS. What's up, Brent?
Good to be here, Chris. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, awesome. And speaking of books, one of the reasons why I'm so excited to have you on is that you have your new book that has recently come out and that I have in my
Look at
hand.
that.
If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see, but I've got Brent's new book up. It's called Get Rich in the Deep End. So we're definitely going to talk all about that. But of course, we have our, we start off every show with our roundtable discussion. And I would like to talk about your BMX riding because I'm
I didn't know where
seeing
you were
you,
going with this, but
dude, I'm fascinated by this because one, like I know how to ride a bike, but I'm not like a BMX biker. And so it's just so it's so outside the realm of like what I do, what I, am good at. So I'd love to hear about the BMX. And I know that you got injured recently, so you're coming back from that. So where did the BMX riding come from?
I got into bikes when I was pretty young. I mean, I think like most kids can learn how to ride a bike, but I always loved riding bikes. And then I'd probably say when I was like 14 to 16, kind of had a little crew, and we'd like, thug around the suburbs on our bikes and build little dirt jumps and things like that. And then I got a car, and there was a skate park on the east side of town in Plano, Texas, called Eisenberg's, which was founded by a guy named Arlo Eisenberg. He was a rollerblader, an inline guy. And he had this
Nice.
really great skate park that his dad had created for him to help him train. And I started to go and bring my bike to the skate park and started to, follow guys like Matt Hoffman and Dave Mira and all these amazing kind of BMX greats back in the
Like the
mid to late
OGs.
90s. Yeah. I mean, there are OGs before even then, but these guys, they started taking it big with like, Vert, and the X Games came out, and
The sponsorships. Yeah. Like I know those names.
yeah. And so I just got like really into it. It was like, I really wasn't into organized sports at that age.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of, found a crew of guys. It's probably from when I was 16 till when I was about, 19. I mean, that was kind of what my life was. And then got a couple of injuries, and I just gave it up for, I guess, until I turned around 30, 37, 38. My son, I was teaching him how to ride a bike. And I actually, to kind of, I had started road biking, and I had kind of ridden bikes off and on, like mostly road biking, doing lots of like long distance type stuff. I got into this thing called randoneering, where you ride like hundreds of miles in one sitting. And then I was teaching my son how to ride a bike, and I, was messing around with him outside, and I had a road bike, and, you're sitting there, and I'm teaching him how to ride in the cul-de-sac, and there's just not a whole lot you can do riding a road bike, around in circles. Right. So I was like, sitting there one night, and I was like, man,
Hold
you
on,
guys
hold
should
on.
just pick up.
I'm just picturing you like with like the spandex and the jersey and the helmet riding around in a little circle in a cul-de-sac.
Well, if I'm out on the
Hilarious thought in my
road,
mind.
totally spandex. You got to wear the uniform, right? You got to wear the uniform. But when I was teaching my son how to ride a bike, I usually would not get the full get up on, right?
Full regalia.
But when I first started riding my road bike, I did not. I was like, I will never wear the spandex, right? And then you do your first couple of 30 or 40 mile rides, and you have these like just any place there's a little bit of fabric rub turns into just this like disaster. But
Yeah.
So,
anyways,
dude, I picked up. I went on Craigslist and I was like, I should pick up a BMX bike, right? It's been years. The last time I was on a bike, I broke my wrist. The time before that, I broke my wrist, right? And I was like, I should just get a BMX and I can, show my kids some tricks. So it started really innocent, and the second I got back on it, it just kind of started to like, that fun factor started coming back, and
totally.
decided to take my kids to a skate park one day, and then it was game over for me. I was like, oh my gosh, like it just all came back, and I was like, this is just fun factor 11 out of 10. And and there's a lot of commonalities actually with business, which I think just mentally has helped me think about how much practice and effort it takes to do anything well.
Yeah, 100%. And the amount of times that you're going to fall down before you actually get something right, that in and of itself is a lesson.
I would say most of the tricks that I've learned how to do on BMX, you literally try them probably like definitely hundreds of times, in some cases thousands of times. And I mean, where you're just like, not to get graphic, but like blood's raining down your leg. You're like, I just need to do it one more time, right?
Right.
And I think about that with business, and I just feel like there's so many things, Chris, where we try it like 3 times and we're like, that's it, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
My hand, right. It's like I'll be out there riding, and it'll just be those days where I maybe had some failure in my work, and it gives me so much context, because I'm like, man, I've tried this trick, 50 times a day for the last 3 months, and sometimes it feels like you're making this, like you literally, you stay up 1 second longer. The bike moves an inch forward, right? Or your foot is a centimeter closer to catching the pedal, right? These like tiny little micro progressions, but you're still not landing it, right? And I feel like sometimes, it just gives me context and perspective, because I feel like in business, sometimes we expect things to work the 3rd time, the 10th time, or whatever. And I think for most things in our businesses that are really worth doing are things that we probably need to have, hundreds or thousands of reps on.
Yeah. This right here is going to be worth the whole episode. This, like what you just mentioned of how quickly we give up. And when you think about it, like how many times are we willing to fall down on the bike or the skateboard or whatever activity it is, and we get back up without even thinking about it? And what are we doing it for? We're doing it for fun, just for nothing, literally for nothing. And yet when it comes to the business, we try it 3 times and we say this doesn't work, and then we never want to go back again. And the business is really how we like that provides for our lifestyle and our family and everything that we want to do in the world. Why is it that we're so willing to fail at riding the bike, and yet we're not willing to fail a million times and get it right with the business? So definitely puts it in a perspective. It's like, if I can do it at that, should definitely be able to do it, hundreds of times more. I should be willing to fail hundreds of times more on the business until I get it right, because that's really what is going to fuel all the other cool things that I want to do in my life, right?
Dude, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said to me, they were trying to get some publicity, some awareness in their market. Very much like what we're talking about right now, right? You've got an audience, you've got people that are mega fans of Chris Martinez and everything you do at Dude Agency. And, here I am, I get to parachute in and drop some value. And somebody I was talking to was like, yeah, I tried to get on, some podcasts and build some awareness for my business. It just didn't work. Right. It's like, oh, cool. Like, how many shows did you reach out to? 3? How many times did you reach out to them? Oh, I sent each of them an email. It's like, all right, cool. Right. Like in this analogy, right? Like we just tried a trick 3 times. If we're going to land this trick, it might take us 300 times. And, we just say, hey, it doesn't work. Right. And, and I think if you look at some of the entrepreneurs that have gotten, that have scaled up the most successful businesses. I mean, if you look at somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk, who's an easy example because we all know him,
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Right? But these people who, literally like the goal was failure, right? They were like, I'm going to see how many times I can fail. Like, I'm just going to keep doing this, right? With Gary, it's like, hey, we're going to create content, he's going to create a daily video, right? And then it was like multiple videos a day. And then it's like, almost like it feels like a video every 15 minutes, right? He's creating a piece of content. He's so good at it. But you look at it, hey, over a decade, I mean, he's gotten 50,000 reps in, right? Like, of course he's going to be great at it.
Exactly. Awesome, man. Well, I mean, let's start talking about you gurus and what you're seeing. And just to put it into context, the last time you were on the show, the world was a very different place than what it is now. The agency world completely flipped on its head back in March and April. Now for the most part, we're seeing a resurgence. Everybody's businesses are coming back. There are still some people that are struggling. But at least what I've seen is that everybody took a hit. When coronavirus hit, we had the lockdowns and everything back in March and April. And then everybody who was left standing, busier than ever now, right? So tell us what's new with you. What are you seeing? And then of course we're going to talk about the book too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with that whole like everybody taking a hit. I have heard a few people say that they've gotten, the pause emails again, or that there's some skittishness in the kind of in some sales pipeline stuff, which I don't, at this point it's anecdotal,
Mhm.
but it's kind of happening again. And I was mentioning this to some of my clients the other day. It's like, hey, fool me once, shame on on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right? I think we've now
Exactly.
had 6-9 months of time to uh protect our businesses and kind of find, do we need to pivot, do we need to go after a different market, do we need to come up with different offers or different ways to communicate with our clients, but then also, I think a lot of people are having their best year ever. I mean, I think we
Mhm.
live in a world where our industry is by and large blessed because we're all doing digital stuff and we mostly all work remote, and it's like our businesses were made for this type of a situation.
Yeah.
So I think that's been really good. And I think probably if I were to say some of the big issues, whether you're overwhelmed with new business or you're underwhelmed with business, I think some of the things, the challenges that I'm hearing is, you know, burnout. People are tired, fatigued, right, on both ends of the spectrum, and having to manage like crazy demand at work, but also maybe they had to cut back hours because they're doing homeschool their kids, right? I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of that kind
Right.
of stuff
Right.
going on. And I think the thing that I keep trying to bring to people's attention is like, it's okay to take off, a week. It's we're in this now for the long haul. And maybe in March and April, it felt weird to like take a vacation, but I think at this point, it's okay for people to maybe, hit pause on their own business and make sure that you're recharging as you go into the end of this year.
What do you see are some of the things that people are doing really well now that we have 6 months of coronavirus under our belt? What are some of the things that the agency owners have pivoted and are really doing well now that it's helping them to be successful?
Well, I think a couple things. One is a lot of people really, I think, got into a serve mindset and a help mindset of,
Hmm.
I'm just going to check in with my clients. And, another one of the first things we told everybody to do, right? Call all of your clients, check in
Hmm.
with them, see how they're doing, see what they need, right? If they need you to throw them a life preserver, throw them a life preserver, get them back on the boat, and then let's talk about what's next for them. Let's get them, some bigger improvements kind of stuff. So, that service mindset I think has been huge. The other thing that I think this whole thing has forced people to do is think about what results am I getting my clients, and are they good enough, and can I get them faster, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
People aren't like, oh, hey, let's do a project that we'll see in, I mean, some people are doing longer term projects, but there's a lot of people that I think their attention span has shortened. And I do think there's an upside to that. Or maybe the constraint of people wanting results faster has made people maybe reconsider how their processes work. Maybe they've reconsidered the types of resources they invest with their clients. Maybe they've even cut some services that really aren't relevant anymore. Like
Hmm.
maybe there are some agencies that were still doing some print stuff that it was kind of this legacy thing. I mean, gosh, 2020 is a great year. If you don't like doing print and you're still doing it just because you did it 10, 20 years ago, great year to just say, hey, we're not doing that anymore. Obviously, it's not as big of a part of our business, right? So I think faster results, service, and using this as an opportunity to look at what is working well in your business and focus on that, and maybe just eliminate some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big things that we, doubled down on when coronavirus hit, because we lost about 18% of our revenue almost overnight in March. Which 18% is a lot. You have a lot of hard decisions to make when you lose 18%. And what we always knew is that the clients that we talk to more, they stick with us longer. And so we're like, we need to get in front of everybody as much as possible on the phones, doing Zoom calls. We can't see them face to face, obviously. And we rediscovered the importance of being human for our clients. And I think that the coronavirus did the same thing for a lot of other agencies that are doing well now. It's, hey, this is a relationship based business. This is not, let's just do everything over email, or text them a message every once in a while. We do need to create these emotional connections with our clients. I think that because we've been so, like, our business is technology. And in many ways, that has also been a crutch for us because
Mm,
we rely too much on the technology to maintain the relationship. And there's nothing like talking to somebody, and listening to them, and then working together to solve a problem, and then they walk away from that conversation knowing that you have their back no matter what. That's how you build customers for life. So
totally. I think that, I mean, the relationship component is where I think for some agency owners, they maybe hadn't, it wasn't front and center.
mhm.
And so I think this whole thing, it did make people kind of focus a lot on the relationship component. I kind of look at it as these kind of two parts of, you've got the relationship component and the results component, and you need to be strong in both areas. Cause
Yeah, totally.
if you're not getting, if your clients aren't getting some of them quantifiable or tangible or measurable results, or even emotional results from working with you, then I mean, there's only so far, those check-in calls and
Right.
those, I tell people this story sometimes is, I had an agency that we were working with, and they were really great on the relationship side, like lots of calls, lots of check-ins. And they would, sign me up for these free gift programs, and they were always sending me stuff, and they were always like front of mind. And it worked great when we were getting results. And then, we stopped getting results, and we were getting, it was like atrocious return on ad spend
Yeah.
performance. And it was like, we're sitting here just dumping money on Facebook and getting no ROI. And here I'm getting this like mug in the mail with like the company's brand on it or whatever,
Right,
and
right,
I'm
right.
just like, oh, so I think there's a fine line, right, between
Yeah.
those two things. And but the I think the relationship component is kind of like a safety margin, that it can help you if something like, the whole, the whole world gets turned upside down, and all of a sudden, like, you're not getting your clients those results for a really short period of time. I think that relationship component can kind of pull the slack in,
Yeah,
and
totally.
keep them happy for a little while. And then we've got to get back to going, hey, let's get you some results. And then the last thing I'll say on this, Chris, is some people get their clients great results, but because they suck so bad at the relationship component, they don't ever tell their clients about the results they're getting. So they're getting their clients amazing results, but the client isn't aware. And that's just about as bad as actually not getting them results.
Yep. We call it bridge, connect, and deliver. So you got to do all three. You got to communicate. You got to develop that connection where they know that you care, and then the most important one is you got to deliver. You got to get them results. So awesome, man. Well, I've got your book in front of me. I will have to admit, I just got it yesterday, so I haven't been able to even read the first page yet. But your book is called Get Rich in the Deep End, Commit to Your Niche, Own Your Market, and Audaciously Scale Your Agency. All things that you are an expert at. So, first of all, what motivated you to want to write the book? Because a book is, I mean, it's serious work. You said it was 2 years in the making.
Yeah, I think I mean, everybody tells you a book is a lot of work, but I think if I really knew, if somebody was really honest with me, that, maybe it wouldn't have happened, right? It was really fast to write like the first draft, and then I brought it to somebody, and they said, "Hey," I said, "Hey, here's my book," and they were like, "Yeah, it's a really good concept, but you should actually start over and rewrite the whole thing." And I was like, oh, "Okay."
That's what you love to hear.
Yeah. So I did a little bit of that, and so it was definitely a lot of work in the making. I think the reason that the book came around was a common conversation amongst agency owners when I'm talking to them about how they're growing their business and their dependency on referrals and word of mouth, and
Hmm.
also the kind of generalist approach to trying to grow an agency. And I know this from firsthand experience. When we were trying to grow our agency, we kind of were a generalist, jack of all trades. We served a ton of different clients for 7, 8 years and really struggled to scale our business. And we would win big business, we would get some good clients here and there, but it's like every client, I felt like I was reinventing the wheel and having to rebuild our systems because every project was different enough that we could never create any kind of repeatability. And there's just a lot of complexity in the business. And so we started getting really clear about who we served. And we didn't get it right the first time. Actually, I'm on my 13th niche now, but so it took a few iterations, but every time we got more clear about who we served and there was more alignment between that kind of focus and who we wanted to be, the more the faster our business grew, the easier it was, the more profitable it was, the more we were recognized in our market as an authority, and it was it just made business overall better. So I really wanted to take that experience from my last 20 years in entrepreneurship, but also the thousands of agency owners that we've worked with, and say, hey, look, if you want to go in and you're tired of being a generalist, you want to be known for something, then what's an easy blueprint for that?
Perfect. And what is the deep end? So she said, get rich in the deep end. What is the deep end?
Yeah. So, I'm sure you've heard the phrase of an inch deep and a mile wide.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like a lot of agencies are set up. Anybody with a checkbook can be my client, and
credit card and a pulse, CC&P.
Yeah, right. CC&P. Okay. So there's an acronym for that. And so, I look at it and say, look, when we really started to identify a group of people and say, look, this market, right, this audience is who we want to serve. And we didn't just like get a restaurant client, but we got, several dozen restaurant clients. And we started going to restaurant conferences and speaking to restaurant owners. And I started to, get mentors in the restaurant industry. And I started building a network of referral partners in the restaurant industry. And I started to really understand the intellectual property and language and all the specific pains and problems of restaurant owners. And when I started creating funnels and landing pages and keynote presentations and video content around that niche, right? Like we really got into it. We like went into the deep end of it. A lot of really fun stuff started to happen, right? Our business became more scalable. Like sales was way easier. Marketing was like really simple. I'd just go to a room with 20 restaurant owners, talk about their biggest pains and problems, and 6 of them would come up to me and hire me. And sales was like, it wasn't them asking or telling me what they wanted. It was them asking me, what should we be doing right now? You're the expert. Can you please tell us how we can succeed online, right? And then I'm telling them what should be on their website. I'm telling them what their marketing strategy should be. And when we started to see that as kind of a pattern, it was like, this works a lot better. And so we didn't stay, married to the restaurant niche. That's not where my heart and soul was forever. But it was like one of the markets that we kind of went after and started to jump more into the deep end, and business got more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, I don't want to take too much out, or get somebody to not read the book, but what are some of your favorite chapters that are in the book?
So one thing I think for your listeners is I created a character named Heather, and she's kind of a cross between my own story, but also a lot of my clients that we've worked with. So it kind of created the ideal scenario for somebody, but not like it's not all roses and good things, right? I mean, there's definitely some common challenges that Heather goes through kind of on her journey. And so some of the things around the chapters around awareness, when Heather's first getting out there in her market and starting to build awareness for her business, she faces a lot of rejection. And I think this is something that a lot of business books and a lot of blog articles don't talk a whole lot about, right? They say, oh, go do these 10 things and be wildly successful, right? But they don't ever like, you don't ever like watch, or see a description of what it's like to really get rejected and fail at something, and the emotional challenges that you have to go through as an agency owner and entrepreneur to overcome that stuff and to persevere, and what winning and success really looks like. And so I tried my best to create that as real as I could with, the inner dialogue and the doubts and all that kind of stuff. And so I think when Heather goes out and starts actually, taking some swings and getting the no's, I think that's something that maybe, some people will connect with. And obviously, I won't tell you how it ends, but Heather does persevere through some of those no's. And I think it creates a kind of interesting storyline.
What are some of the ways that Heather is able to handle the rejection? What are some of the and I'm asking because I want to also hear what are some of your tips that you give to people to help them deal with the rejection?
Well, and I think that this is so one thing I talk about in the book with Heather around this is, a lot of people take rejection when somebody doesn't respond to them about something.
Hmm. Hmm.
They send an email to a publisher, they try to get on stage somewhere, and they don't get a response back. And I think a lot of people take that as a type of rejection. And I think one of the things that I teach Heather in the book is that's uh, it's really nothing. It's lack of information. We don't actually have any new information, right? Best case scenario, we can make an assumption that whoever you just reached out to is insanely busy and they're just super overwhelmed and they just don't
Hmm.
have the time to get back to you, right?
Right.
And so really teaching Heather how to deal with the lack of response and how to kind of be a velvet hammer and be persistent with people, but don't be a spammer and don't be a jerk about it, but how to come up with creative ways around that. And then also using that as feedback to get better. And like, I look at rejection as a really powerful, constructive feedback. That's not
Right.
about I'm a bad person or I'm not good enough or something, but maybe my content isn't ready yet. Maybe I need to get better at some content and come back to this person and try again later. When we first got into the agency market, we pitched about 30 publishers to try to get on their blogs, and
Hmm.
29 of them either did not respond or gave us direct no's, and we got one like B or C list level blog to give us a chance. And we got an article published, and it did okay. And then we kind of took that and used that as some credibility to kind of repitch. And most of them said no again, right? But a couple of more said yes. And
Hmm.
in the book, I give the analogy of the uh, the Beatles, like when
Hmm.
they went out and started playing, right? They didn't like play in their garage. And this is one of the biggest mistakes I think people make is they go to their own blog, their own Facebook, their own Instagram, right? We have all these amazing platforms out there that will let us publish whatever we want, right? For better or for worse. I can go to Facebook and I can spout all sorts of nonsense right into my feed. But getting on somebody else's platform, all of a sudden there's like a hurdle. And that I think is something where there's a lot of really valuable feedback that will help you create better content. So if the Beatles didn't play in their garage, I mean, I'm sure they played at home and practiced and listened to albums and got good, but they went out there and they pitched themselves to clubs and bars and venues, right? And they built up, they kind of got better through that process, and then
Hmm.
eventually, they got so good that they had their own audience of people, and they could rent out their own venues. They could command Madison Square Garden or whatever, right? But that's what I think a lot of people think is going to happen to them right away if they just go and post on Instagram 9 times a day, that eventually they'll get discovered. And the reality is like that's just not how it works, right? You got to go out there to other people's platforms, be put through the ringer. You got to be told like, hey, your content actually sucks, it's not good, like it's not good enough yet.
Right.
And then eventually you will be good, and that's where you can have your own audience and you can really develop that. So I think that's where, I mean, I spent a lot of time on that, right? Telling people like, you got to be out there gigging. If you're not gigging in your market and you're wondering why you don't have leads and you're wondering why nobody knows that you're so awesome and you're such an expert, then that's probably one area in your business that you've got to fix.
That's awesome, man. Makes me think of the Zig Ziglar quote, which is anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly first, right? You got to be willing to suck at it first. And then, yeah, you do learn more from the wins than you do the losses. You learn more from falling off the bike than landing the trick, right? So,
landing the trick, it feels sweet though, right?
Yeah.
It does.
Oh yeah,
it does,
definitely. Eventually you're going to get there. Eventually you're going to get there.
But you do spend, I would say 98% of your time is 99% of your time is spent like not landing. And so if you're not finding joy in that part of the process, like you're going to be miserable a lot. So if you can find joy in the failure and in the rejection and kind of make it a good thing, then I think you're going to have a lot more fun being an entrepreneur.
Awesome, man. I can already see book number 2 in the works. This is going to be a very deep philosophical book, the second one. Awesome, man. Well, we're about out of time. Brent, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously would love for you to check out the book. It's on Amazon, Get Rich in the Deep End. We do have a dedicated website set up for it at ownyourmarket.com. But if you do happen to pick up the book, would love for you just to, drop me an email, brent@ugurus.com, and just connect and just say, hey, I got the book, and we've got a cool Get Rich in the Deep End field guide that has a bunch of workbooks, editable PDFs, all that good stuff. So if you are wanting to take action on the book and implement it, then I can hook you up with that field guide if you just drop me that email.
Fantastic. And who would be the perfect person to take advantage of that offer today?
I mean, any digital agency owners that are tired of relying on referrals and word of mouth, they're tired of being a generalist, they're tired of not being able to scale their business because they're reinventing the wheel on every single client project.
Perfect. I love it. All right, everybody. Well, you've been listening to my buddy, Brent Weaver. Definitely check out his book. It is bound to be a great read for you and valuable information for your agency. To all of our listeners out there, thank you guys for tuning in today, and make sure that you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom.